So let's just trace this back a little bit. On the third day, there was a marriage at Cana in Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus also was invited to the marriage with his disciples. And I've already suggested that what's happening here is exactly what Justin Martyr and Irenaeus and others picked up on, that we have a new creation being narrated in a way that's reminiscent of the old creation. And just as you had Adam and Eve in the earthly bond of human marriage at the climax of the first creation, so you have a new Adam and a new Eve entering into a whole new kind of covenant communion that isn't the carnal bond of human marriage on earth. And we know what Jesus says about how in the resurrection we'll be like the angels, not because we won't have bodies, but because we won't be married or given in marriage. So there's something here, again, interwoven into the texture of the narrative that suggests that Jesus is seeing this wedding as an opportunity that Mary initiates, and that John is tracking this not just in terms of what happened that day, but what eternity was doing in that day. So, Jesus the new Adam, Mary the new Eve, the new covenant that brings forth a new creation. And how does it happen? When the wine gave out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." It's a simple observation. A mother makes it to her son, and Jesus said to her, "O woman, what have you to do with me?" Now, I'm not going to get into a discussion of the first half of Jesus' response, because I'm convinced that a disproportionate amount of time has already been spent on that in the last 100 years. I mean, literally, over 100 articles have been written by scholars as to what Jesus means when he says to her, "O woman, what have you to do with me?" First of all, woman is not disrespectful, especially if it harkens back to Genesis 1 and 2. It's even more profound in that sense, not disrespectful. And "what have you to do with me" is a phrase that occurs in other places in the Old and New Testament. And even if there is a little element of tension in other instances, like when the demons respond to Jesus, "What have you to do with me?" it's always followed by compliance. The demons might not want to leave, but they leave anyway. And every other usage of the phrase always ends up with compliance. So it isn't, an argument. It isn't sort of like, "How dare you interrupt me?" It's the phrase that would lead you to expect from other instances that Jesus is probably going to comply with his mother's wish. But what does he say? Well, this is where I'm convinced that too much inattention has been given. Not enough attention. Because what he says is, "My hour has not yet come." My hour has not yet come. Now, when we hear that, I think we're still kind of instinctively drawn back to the first half. Okay, fine, my hour. But what did he mean, "What have you to do with me"? Again, let's just bracket that, and let's focus on "my hour has not yet come." I want to propose to you that what is asserted is significant, but oftentimes what is even more significant than what is asserted is what is assumed. Because Jesus' assertion is, "My hour has not yet come." And we're habituated to hearing that. But what we're not habituated to doing is asking ourselves, what assumption lies behind that assertion? She says, "They have no wine." He says, "So my hour hasn't come." With all due respect, Jesus, all she did was just to point out an empirical fact that they're out of wine. She wasn't talking about your hour, much less your redemptive sacrifice. Go easy on it. You've got the hour on the brain, but all she said was they're out of wine. But behind the assertion clearly lies an assumption that when my hour comes, what do I already expect to provide? Wine. They have no wine. So my hour hasn't come. Suppose a man is dating a woman, and now they're finished courtship and they're engaged. And he says to her, "Here, let me go upstairs and show you my bedroom." And she replies, "What is this between you and me? My hour has not yet come." Okay, you can hear by the alto and soprano voices laughing, what is being assumed behind what is being asserted. That your bedroom is a place I look forward to getting to, but not yet. All right? So the only way to really get at the heart of what Jesus says in response is that when his hour arrives, providing wine is something he already anticipates. Okay, now what I want to do is just to stop for a second and ask ourselves, what do we know about the hour of Jesus? In John's Gospel especially, what event does it refer to? We know, his Paschal mystery. When he is arrested, tried, and executed. That's the soldier's perspective. Now the disciples' perspective is when he lets himself be handed over to his enemies, and they falsely accuse, they sentence him to die, and he offers himself as a sacrifice. That's the hour. You know, the outsiders see it as the time he's arrested, tried, and executed. The insiders see it as the time when he, for whatever reason, offers himself. If, for example, let's turn to John 7, verse 30, and you will see that meaning of the hour explicitly used. In John 7, verse 30, we read, "So they sought to arrest him, but no one laid hands on him." Why? Because his hour had not yet come. So even though they wanted to arrest him, they couldn't because he was in control of the circumstances. And his hour hadn't come, so no arrest was going to be done. Look over at John 8, verse 20. Something very similar. "These words he spoke in the treasury as he taught in the temple, but no one arrested him." Why? Because no one wanted to. No, because his hour had not yet come. So we can understand clearly the meaning of the hour in John's Gospel, where it occurs more frequently than in Matthew, Mark, and Luke put together. But I want to draw a distinction between the hour and what it means in John 7:30 and 8:20, where it clearly refers to the time of his arrest, trial, and execution. I want to distinguish that use of hour from the use of hour on the lips of our Lord. Because I want to look at John 2 and other instances where Jesus explicitly uses the word hour in John's narrative. The hour is a reference to his time of arrest, trial, and execution. But I want to show you that what Jesus does with the word hour takes us from the outside to the inside. From the mere appearance that human witnesses would have described, yeah, the hour came and he was arrested, tried, and executed in a very gruesome way. Okay, we've already seen in John